Peter, thank you very much. Joining me now, Trump-Vance transition senior advisor Jason Miller here with me in New York. Hi, Jason. Good to have you with us today.
Good to be with you.
So how does President Trump react to all of these leaders sort of rushing to be by his side once he has laid down the gauntlet of a 25% tariff?
What he looks like at it is he's getting results right away. And we always talk about what President Trump can do on day one. We're not even day one yet. We're still, 7 weeks out? And he's already making it happen. And I look at it, and obviously I'm someone who's on the president's team and excited that he's coming back into the White House. But I also look and say, why did Joe Biden and Kamala Harris, the border czar, never do anything like this? President Trump isn't even back in the White House yet, and he's already taken action in getting results with securing our northern border with regard to fentanyl. And obviously we saw him say the same thing with regard to Mexico. So if this tells you what he's doing before he's in, I know on day one, when we look at all the other things, that this is going to be the greatest 4 years we've ever had.
Play this from President Biden. Watch this.
I hope he rethinks it. I think it's a counterproductive thing to do. You know, look, one of the things you've heard me say before that we have an unusual situation in America. We're surrounded by the Pacific Ocean, the Atlantic Ocean, and two allies, Mexico and Canada. And the last thing we need to do is begin to screw up those relationships. I think we've got them in a good place.
They're in a good place, those relationships. And he doesn't think anybody should do anything to screw that up. What's your reaction to that, Jason?
Yeah, it's just sad. I mean, Joe Biden's completely clueless. You look what's happened with our borders and with our economy over the past 4 years, especially with as good of a place as President Trump had our country in. And you see someone like Biden say that the thinking is so outdated. Tariffs are a masterful soft power. Sometimes President Trump put them into place. Sometimes ended up being used to get real results. And that's what we're seeing right now. Now, there are definitely going to be some actions that he takes. We've already heard what he said with regard to saving the U.S. auto industry, making sure that our farmers are taken care of. But what we see right now with the securing the border, that's a big priority because on day one, you're going to secure the border, obviously going to drill, baby, drill. The other thing that a lot of the folks in the transition are working on, in regard to the energy exploration, is also getting rid of the Green New Deal. This is going to be a day one priority to start pulling it out root and branch. Those days are numbered. So
you hear the concerns on the part of some economists, but I've always seen it, watching him in the first term, as a negotiation tactic, these tariffs. And as you say, sometimes they stay on and sometimes they don't. But if President Trump sees that there's inflation happening, he obviously isn't going to want that. He's not going to want inflation.
Well, but also keep in mind the record low inflation we had in his first term. When he left, it was at 1.4%, which is basically no inflation. And you look at the strong economic team that he's put around him. So we have Scott Bessent, who's going to come in at Treasury, Howard Lutnick, of course, at Commerce, Kevin Hassett, they're running the NEC, and then Jameson Greer, who's going to be at the USTR, the trade rep. He'd worked under Bob Lighthizer. This is a very senior, polished team.
I mean, they don't want to see inflation. I mean, that obviously that's not, they're going to try to orchestrate.
Right. But I also want to make sure we don't lose sight of the fact that President Trump put tariffs into place in his first term, and we had record low inflation. So the economists, the geniuses, got it completely wrong.
Right, because you hear, I mean, that's what all these, counter economists are trying to present here. But I see it more as a negotiation tactic that, as you say, has worked in the last time around. Very strong post by President-elect Trump that there will be hell to pay in the Middle East if the hostages are not returned. We now believe, and we'll put pictures up of them, that we have 3 American hostages. Sadly, Omar Nutra, we learned, was killed on October 7th, on the day of the attack. We believe these 3 American individuals are still there. So he said hell to pay in the Middle East. Is he calling out Iran here? And is this a direct threat to Iran if they don't release them by January 20th? What does that look like?
I think it's a direct threat to anyone who's holding our hostages, whether those be American hostages, Israeli-American hostages. We're going to get them back. And quite frankly, shame on Joe Biden and his entire administration for not being tougher on this to get those hostages back. I fear how many are even still alive. How many can we even get back? But President Trump, this is not messing around. This is not a negotiation.
So what happens if those people aren't released by January 20th?
I would take him literally at his word. They will have hell to pay. I'm obviously not going to go and put this specific action into place on the president's behalf, but he's very serious on this one, Martha.
All right. New COVID report from the House. I'm going to speak to Speaker Johnson in Washington tomorrow about this. Biden also had a lot of evidence that COVID started in the lab in China. Now there's a 2-year-long investigation by the House led by Brad Wenstrup, a physician himself. Will President Trump take action against China based on this new evidence, or the building evidence, I should say, over the last few years about COVID's origins?
Well, on the campaign trail, President Trump brought this up a number of times and said there should be some aspect of economic reparations that China pays to the U.S. and, quite frankly, to the entire world for what happened, how they allowed this virus to get out. And obviously the efforts that they had to try to cover it up and pretend as though it wasn't happening. You remember the crazy stories of not allowing people within China to travel from Wuhan to other places in the country, but you could go from Wuhan to Chicago if you wanted to. The number of people that died, the damage it did to our global economy, what it did to the U.S. economy, is absolutely shameful. So I think that President Trump is not going to let this go. I think this is going to be directly tied into what he does with the economic, whether it be tariffs or other things that he does with China. So we have a lot to discuss when it comes to China.
I just spoke to a documentary filmmaker who thinks he should take a close look at gain-of-function research that is still going on and still funded in part through channels by U.S. dollars. I promised the woman from Chicago who was a big Trump supporter on the campaign trail, she wants President Trump to come to Chicago. Is he going to go to Chicago, Los Angeles, places that have been blue that got a little bit redder over the course of this election?
Well, of course, he's going to be back to the big cities. You look at, I mean, even during the campaign, the president was there for a number of events in Chicago. Obviously, the time that he spent in New York, and we saw him go to California in the general election. The difference with President Trump from what we've seen over the last 4 years, he's going to be a president for all Americans because the economy is going to go up for all Americans. The border security is going to go up for all Americans. You're going to see him back in the blue cities because he's turning them red.
All right. Just last question real quick. Pete Hegseth, Tulsi Gabbard, Kristi Noem, Robert F. Kennedy Jr., some of the people that are expected to see a little bit more pushback in these Senate hearings. Is the president-elect concerned about any of these nominees? And are you picking anything up on the Senate side that there are concerns about any of those?
No, feeling very good about the nominees. And as they have these one-on-one meetings, we're getting really good feedback. Some of the senators are taking to social media and other media to demonstrate that. Others are communicating it directly to us. This is all being done in advance of the actual confirmation hearings. And when we have, whether it be Pete Hegseth or when we have Tulsi Gabbard, or later this week we'll have Scott Bessent, and into next week another these nominees going around, they're getting such good feedback because people realize these are highly qualified individuals. You take someone like Pete, for example, 2 Bronze Stars, was in combat in Iraq and Afghanistan.
Absolutely.
That's the kind of person you want running the DOD. I look at Pam Bondi running the DOJ, Kash Patel, someone who, by the way, was only the lead hostage negotiator in the first Trump administration. These are some really top shelf A-list people.
Well, we look forward to watching all of them and covering it through these hearings. I think the American people are going to learn a lot about all these individuals, and we look forward to all of that. Jason, good to see you in person in New York. Thanks for stopping by, and we'll see you soon.
Appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.